Welcome, everybody. It's Tuesday, and that means I'm your keeper this evening here for Minions of the Zoo. I'm Skep Tock. With me, I have Minions Prospero.
Hello.
The useful Jason.
Hello. How goes it?
Blind Press.
Hello.
The Harry Channel.
Good evening.
And good friend of the Minions and all-around celebrity good guy, Irate Prostate.
Greetings, people.
That's an awesome motorcycle. That's yours, right?
No, it's from it's a I think it's a sketch design for the movie that they're going to be making of Akira.
Oh, well, looks like a Tron.
Dude,
cycle.
Are they making a live action movie of it?
Yeah, Akira. Yeah, they're doing. That's what I heard. That they're doing live action, and that's I guess a sketch,
Wait,
a CG sketch.
Anime?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, anime movie.
Yeah, it's a fantastic.
I don't watch
movie.
anime, so.
Why are they trying to make
Man,
something
it's like
live
it's a couple. There's a couple out there that are really good, and like Akira has an aesthetic to it, which is really unique. And it's I don't know, man. I'm not big on fucking anime either, man. To be honest, but there are little gems, right? Even it's like I'm not a country music fan, but there are like 2 or 3 really good country music songs I like, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem with anime is that everybody looks the same. But before we get into a detailed discussion of all this, let's go around the room and see how everybody's doing this evening. Prospero, how was your day?
My day was fine. I spent a little too much time farting around with graph paper trying to place furniture in a room that doesn't exist yet.
That's always fun.
Yeah, boy.
Is this furniture that does exist?
Oh, the furniture exists. The house just
The house
doesn't.
does not.
Because it's really hard if both the furniture and the house don't exist.
Well, in the
Or it's
two-dimensional
easier.
space in which I was working, neither did exist. But yeah, it's just the idea of having to measure things and try to see if they'll fit, because mind's eye will tell you one thing and then actual inches and feet will tell you another. So everything's adaptable. It will all be fine. This is what I keep telling myself. But other than that, my day was great. How was yours?
Much better. Johnny Hellcat just sent me.
Oh, please,
Share the class.
we can't share it. We can't share it. This is, we can.
God damn it! Share that thing.
No, it's got to be shared behind the scenes.
I was gonna say private chat.
Just share it. It's private, man. I gotta see it.
I can't really share it in private because it's sent to me in Discord.
Skep, did you soil yourself?
Almost, I think.
I think it sounded. It was so good. It's like
opening his DM.
Oh, that is so funny. That is so funny.
Yeah, you'll just have to tune in for Johnny's flight as an apprentice on Thursday stream.
I'll let him unveil that. Just Thursday's Minions, guys, do not miss it. Just trust me. We're tuning in just to look at that picture that I just reacted to and was not ready for at all. Had no idea that's what that looked.
And I hope it's this Thursday. I'm pretty sure it will be.
So
it's, if not, blame me.
It'll be a Thursday.
Yes, it will be a Thursday. But
future Thursday.
Yes.
On any given future Thursday.
Any given Thursday.
It must be Belgium. Jesus.
So
oh my God.
If time goes on forever, there's always going to be a Thursday. So the number of Thursdays is infinite. Is it less than the number of days, which is also infinite, or are they both infinite? You guys can ponder that for a minute while we go through the group here and see how everybody was. Jason, how was your day, man?
It was pretty good. I went to the shelter today. I trained a new volunteer because I've been there 3 months already, so I guess I'm good enough yet. But
what kind of things do you have to do to train somebody?
Well, I work the clinic part, so I make the surgical packs for the neuteries and space. And I train people to make the cones and whatnot and the needles.
Okay.
It's just mundane work, but it has to be done. So
No,
You're the cone instructor.
yeah.
This
Yes.
is how you apply the cone of shame.
Yeah.
Are you from France? But okay. Blind Press, how was your day today?
My day was good. I had no kids today, so I got my dishes and my counter and my stove and my table and my bathroom clean.
Any idea where they are?
Well, yes, I know where they were. The oldest is doing day camp for a few days this week, and then,
Oh boy.
the youngest he's at daycare until September, so he was at daycare. So
Ray, Alex, and Logan
mm-hmm.
growing up, getting to be little men.
Yep.
I mean, they were so little when you and I met.
Yep. I think Logan wasn't even a year when we met.
That's right.
Like
Yeah,
that.
no,
He was like-
yeah, that's right. I got
He
to see
was
his
a
first birthday.
baby.
A baby.
Like,
So
I think there were streams where I was on my headset wearing him in the backpack to get him to go to sleep.
yes, you. Oh, absolutely. You did that many times. We talked about that.
Yep.
Yeah, we talked about that. That's funny. It's amazing. They grow up, and I keep telling you, but you'll know this is true. Cherish every second of it because it vanishes, and when it's gone, it's gone.
All of a sudden, they start thinking for themselves.
Jesus. Anyway, yeah.
Anyway. Learning things you don't know, and it's like, wait a minute.
They're like sponges.
All right, how was your day?
It was great. Woke up, tooled around a little bit. Uzi and I were talking. Went out to the pool, hung out for a couple hours, got some sun.
Nice.
Frolicked in the water. It was awesome. And then I came back and I took a nap.
Frolicking in the water like water nymphs.
It was awesome. It was
Excellent.
really fun. Yes.
Excellent. Good to
That's
hear.
awesome.
I'm glad you had a good day. Harry, how about you? How goes the world, the insane world of California?
It was fine. I didn't leave the house, so for all I know, it's all gone to complete crap. The last I heard was they were going to require all K through 12 students when they go back to school next year to wear masks all the time.
Yes. And exclude those children who don't.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to
But
turn the children away from school if they don't have a mask.
Well,
Yeah, for their own good.
there is, in all fairness, a little troubling news about the Delta variant and younger people being affected by it. Because there are 12 kids in ICU in Mississippi, all with COVID Delta variant, and 10 of them apparently are on ventilators, on life support.
Mm-hmm.
That is a bit of a shift from previous iterations of the COOF. So,
Are you hearing that people that have been inoculated are getting sick too?
With very, 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 very mild symptoms based on how many times, whether they've had both vaccinations. Harry turned me on to Dr. John Campbell, and his YouTube page is very good, and he has a very well-deserved, now over 1 million subscribers.
Yes.
He just presents the information. There's very rarely does he insert himself in the story. I'm sure there are going to be people who are like, you sound just like the information government stooge, man. But he's just putting out there what he knows.
And what he's been able to gather and find out.
And he has been for years a clinician. He was a nurse. He was an instructor of nurses. He has a doctoral degree in research. So he knows how to read papers that have come out, information, and he's very, very good at translating that to the everyman.
Right.
And a lot of the information he has is what the governments provide.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he gives a very fair analysis of the information, as well as some of the decision making that's being done.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't help but have an opinion, because as a clinicians are always going to err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
That's just their do no harm thing.
But
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, like, we can't expect, like, if it's mutating this quickly, that we have fucking 4 variants now. What is it?
Oh, we have
5
more,
or whatever.
They're more than that. Yeah.
Like,
chances are there are many more than
we
that.
are going to have to either we need to step up our vaccine game, or we need to realize that our vaccine for COVID is going to be just about as effective as the flu shot.
Well, I don't think COVID's going to ever go away.
No, it's not.
There is a potential that it will be reduced to a nothing burger with proceeding along vaccination lines, and that you'll tame it down to what we're seeing when there is when people do come down with something after having been vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
The description of most symptoms for most people are that of the common cold.
Yeah.
Who've had the vaccination.
Yeah, it's pretty clear it is. I wanted to finish asking Harry about his day and what's going on.
Yeah, screw you, Harry.
Actually got to do a little research on a town that is very similar to a town you know about in Saline County, Kansas. Where and actually that's going to be one of the things that starts us off here in a minute, is something that I found reading about Salina, Kansas, which is how you pronounce that. It's not like Salinas, California.
I know people who are from Salina, Kansas. They get very testy when you mispronounce the name of their town.
Yes.
Which is, it's a fairly easy one. Now, my big accomplishment for today was doing something impossible that would be really hard to explain for a customer. So we'll skip over that part, but I did get up at 2:30 in the morning to work on it, so I'm kind of running on fumes.
Perhaps you'll share it with me sometime.
Sure. The big accomplishment for the day was I got some lamb shanks, and I just really enjoy kind of humble cooking. You know, I really do like that kind of low and slow,
braised lamb
old school stuff. So I braised some lamb shanks and put a whole bottle of wine in there with some chicken demi-glaze and mirepoix. And then after the lamb shanks had cooked down, I pulled them out, shredded them like they were pulled pork, and made 3 meals out of 2 lamb shanks. And then I strained all the goodie out of the juice, reduced it down until it was a glaze, and just kind of spooned it over the top. And so I've now made 3 meals, because I like to just make food in advance, like when I'm just cooking for myself, and then I'll make a bunch of it, and then I'll put some of it in the fridge or the freezer.
Excellent.
And yesterday I made a meat sauce, a spaghetti sauce that's kind of like if you imagine the shitty meat sauce that they put on Chef Boyardee, but something that's like the gourmet version of that's like really, really good. Again, with like half a bottle of wine in it. So I've been cooking up a storm the last few days.
Oh yeah. Nice. Well, good on you. Well, it sounds good. It sounds like you're living the life out there. But I am serious about getting together and talking about what it is you did, because I do want to talk to you a little bit about what you do for a living, and have some ideas in that regard for maybe some future stuff we might do. Anyway, and then suddenly a wild Sora Luna appeared, and I'm so glad that she came. Welcome to Tuesday.
Hello. I woke up from an unintentional nap to a message. And I was like, "Oh, hey, look! I'll wake up.
It's
Something to
Tuesday.
do.
Skip wants me on. What a surprise!
Usually I'm not rested and I'm dead tired. And this time, hey, nap first, stream later.
Thanks to
So-
Matt's always the best, though.
Yeah.
So, did you have a hard day at work today?
No, it was just warm. It was
Okay.
it was a really good day. Nobody fighting us. Well, nothing out of ordinary. There was cookies. We got cookies from a patient, so that was delicious. And I just got home, had dinner, and I guess it was just so warm. I just passed out.
And you started your day with an interesting breakfast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I found this okroshka, I think it's pronounced. It's
Yeah.
a Russian summer dish. It's a cold salad, a cold liquid salad. So it's boiled potatoes and egg that you cool down and cut up finely, that you mix with raw radish, green onion, field cucumbers, so like the old English cucumber versus the long skinny cucumber.
Mm.
Just because that's more what they would have there, and basically a pink slime pork product, which you can't really find here. So I use garlic oil.
A pink slime.
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
that
Like if
sounds
you
Yes,
if-
I know exactly what you mean, and that just sounds horrifying. It's like
so
you're going along describing this delicious thing, and then you add the pig shit.
Yeah, that's
So
Russia,
Shit? Are
Bubba.
you sure?
So,
Yes. Be
pork-
sure you use at least a cup.
This is why the Russians always look so happy.
Duh.
it's your like those absolutely delicious, terrible for you,
Otter
probably
urine.
causes
It's
cancer.
delicious.
Oh,
Like
it's
bologna.
it's almost like potted meat, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, but without like the slime of like what you'd have in the canned meat, without the
Ugh.
Yeah,
the,
the
fat.
congealed fat
yeah,
glaze.
exactly.
oh,
Yeah.
it's like when you get canned corned beef, and there's that lovely
The gristle
Yeah,
fat.
mhm.
The
Yeah.
consomme.
Mm.
Tell 'em.
Mm.
It is.
Part.
It's,
Anything but canned
That is
chicken.
what it
Those
is,
whole
actually.
canned chickens are nasty.
No,
never had one.
I can't do that.
yeah, pig consomme is pretty good,
You know.
actually.
Pork
Before
holds
you
up
say
to the
I-
heat of canning really well.
Before
but-
you say I can't eat that,
Yes.
reflect on whether or not you've ever really been hungry in your life.
No, that's true. That's very true.
What is always spaghetti or jello, you know?
What was the
Oh, the liquid?
liquid? Did
Yes.
you use
Oh, and
buttermilk or?
I should say a shit ton of dill, fresh dill.
Oh,
mixed
nice.
in, because
Yeah,
it's
course.
part of the recipe, but I put even more because I love dill. So, according to what I watched, depending on the part of the country you're from, you eat it with different ways. So you store it dry,
Yes.
and then you serve it in a bowl and you add the liquid. So you can either use kvass, which is fermented rye drink.
Rye, yeah.
I think it's rye, or it's
It is rye,
fermented grain.
black
So
bread
you
or rye
get
bread.
drunk when you eat this.
Well, no, it's
Okay.
non-alcoholic. It's fermented, but it's only got about 1.2% alcohol.
Oh, okay.
So it's alcoholic, but it's very low volume.
You can give it to
alcohol.
kids
Yeah.
and
it
won't
is.
get drunk.
Okay, so it's an
Um,
American beer with salad
It's
in it.
American
Yeah.
near beer with salad. Yeah, it's like a vichyssoise with a kick.
That's hard to find. And I decided to get all these ingredients last night at like 8:30 p.m. So I wasn't going to be hunting down any European deli for the kvass. So what I went for is the other type, which is using kefir,
Oh, kefir and lemon juice, maybe a shot of lemon juice or something. With a
fizzy water.
fizzy water. Okay, because I saw that lemon juice is sometimes used to replace the kvass.
I didn't
And,
have lemon.
Buttermilk is it, or
I didn't buy a
kefir.
lemon. So I had
Buttermilk or
fizzy water
kefir.
and kefir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
'Cause-
and a dollop
there-
of sour cream.
Very good. So you had this, and it
That
was
was-
a great
that
way to
I-
start your day.
Except for
I
the
made that
boiled
all. I
egg,
boiled the
it sounds
potatoes and every.
amazing.
Oh, I'm sorry, BP. What was that?
I was gonna say, except for the egg, that sounds awesome.
It's
Well,
ridiculously refreshing, actually, for breakfast.
It's definitely not your basic bacon and eggs. It's a very interesting idea for breakfast. But anyway,
It sounds light.
You could always do potato leek soup, chill it off, BP, and then just like put bacon in it.
That's true.
Yeah.
And tell yourself, it's kind of oh gosh.
Although my aunt might smack me in the head and go, "No, it's not," because she's Siberian. So
it's vichyssoise. Okay, fine, whatever. Vichyssoise with bacon bits.
anyway, you guys, I don't know if you heard about this. I just thought we could talk about this for a second. Has anybody heard the name Daryl Cooper?
Yeah.
no.
He's the host of the Martyr Made podcast, and he also is the author of a Twitter thread that went completely viral. Was it day before yesterday?
It was
something like that.
Yeah, it was a couple days ago. It was before CPAC.
But anyway, so this guy writes this, extensive, long, set of linked tweets of Twitter thread that he constructed himself. And Glenn Greenwald was writing about it. And he had a couple of good paragraphs. I want to just read these two short paragraphs to you and then get your reaction to it. I think it makes an interesting thing to talk about. And essentially, what was behind this guy's Twitter thread was he wanted to explain why people who backed Donald Trump and why a lot of other people just didn't think that the election seemed fair. And he laid out exactly, chapter and verse, exactly what the concerns were. And I thought he did an excellent job. Anyway, from Glenn Greenwald talking about it, he said, from the perspective of Trump supporters, the entrenched bureaucracy and security state subverted their populist president from day one. The natural guardrails of the Fourth Estate press were removed because the press was part of the operation. Election rules were changed in an unconstitutional manner that could only be challenged after the deed was done, when judges and officials would be playing chicken with the direct threat of burning cities. Political violence was legitimized and encouraged. Major newspapers and sitting presidents were banned from social media, while the opposition enjoyed free rein to promote stories that were discredited once it was too late to matter. Conservatives put these things together and concluded that whatever happened on November 3rd, 2020, it was not a free and fair democratic election in any sense that would have had any meaning before Donald J. Trump was a candidate. Trump supporters were led down some rabbit holes, but they were absolutely right that the institutions and power centers of this country, listen to this carefully, the institutions and power centers of this country have been monopolized by a regime that believes they are beneath representation and will observe no limits to prevent them getting it. I encourage people on the left to recognize the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in front of them. You're not going to agree with the conservatives on everything, but if in 2004 I had told you that the majority of the GOP voter base would soon be seeing the folly of the Iraq War, becoming skeptical of state surveillance, and beginning to see the need for action to help the poor and working classes, you'd have told me that such a thing would transform the country. Take the opportunity. These people are not demons, talking about conservatives, and they are ready to listen in a way that they haven't in a long, long time. I think he's onto something. I think there's a real opportunity for the left and the right to look at this and say and agree that there are some things going on here that neither of us like. Let's see what we can agree on.
One quick thing before BP says anything. Those were Cooper's own words, not Greenwald writing it about it.
Yes. I'm sorry, and these. So I was quoting from Cooper, the article that Greenwald wrote, and this is a quote box that is actually taken from the tweet.
Actually, it's what Greenwald wrote was the preface to that Substack article. Mm-hmm. The text of the Substack article itself is all Daryl Cooper.
Right. This is all Daryl Cooper stuff. I didn't mean to indicate that this.
Greenwald published it on
Greenwald
published it on Substack.
Yeah. But I just was trying to give credit. But anyway, getting to the content of what I just talked about, I think that's a very interesting notion.
If you look at most conservative people, like who are politically conservative, right?
Mm-hmm.
In both Canada and the U.S., right? I mean, yeah, you're gonna find some religious zealots, right? But for the most part now, you're going to find Republicans / conservatives that are going to say, yeah, help the poor and working class people get on their feet so they can be more productive. Yeah, let gay people get married. Yeah, let
Let's
what
throw
are
off
some
state
other-
surveillance.
Let's throw off state surveillance.
Yeah.
Yes, let's not jump into wars at the drop
Let's
of a
get the
hat.
hell out of wars that we're
Yes,
in.
let's
Yeah.
come home from the wars that we're in now.
Right.
Like, most conservative / Republican people are going to say yes to all of those things.
You're right. A very large number of them will. Here's the thing. The regime is made up of a lot of the left's institutions, because they control them.
Yeah.
That's why they're their institutions now. They clearly control the FBI.
Yes.
They don't control the security state, but they are more than happy to play ball with it if it serves their end. It's the neolibs and the neocons that are this regime. Which is why you see the fracturing.
And they're not united.
They're not united. Each one of them wants control of the mechanisms of the regime.
Right.
The problem with the one thing I would say about his text is it is people who lean left in their voting and people who lean right in their voting should be talking about this together. Not anyone in don't the left leadership is not going to be interested in hearing from conservatives. They're not going to be interested in talking to them because right now they legitimately control that entire regime. It is the mainstream media is theirs. Yes. The surveillance state is theirs. They have control in the legislature and they have control in the White House. Now, it's conceivable that should this current president get crosswise with the regime, that he'll get the big yeet. But what this regime is, and he didn't name it as such, but it's certainly quite obvious, is functionally the Clinton machine.
Yes.
That is this regime because Donald Trump stood accused of what Hillary Clinton did. The entire Russiagate thing was what the DNC and Hillary did. And Donald Trump is still accused of being a Russian agent.
Oh, no.
Connections of his are still accused of being involved in this. And all of this, I mean, it was beautifully sewn up.
If you look at the polls, the polls on the number of Americans who accept the narrative of the Russia nonsense is staggering.
Yes, and that's
it's like
where
35% think it's still true.
That's where the problem is, because it was clearly laid out that the Fusion GPS thing was all a lie. It was clearly laid out that lawyer, the Russian lawyer chick who met with the Trump campaign was working for Fusion GPS. That was not as clearly laid out as some of the other things. No. She met with Chris Steele the day before and the day after her meeting with the Trump people.
Yeah. Now, I didn't necessarily want to,
Yeah, but-
start taking the
Right,
taking
but
the
all those bits about the Russiagate thing, all of those were put into play by Clinton as a campaign strategy against Donald Trump.
But Prospero, here's what happens: Brian Stelter gets on TV and says, "Russiagate is true."
Right,
For many Americans, that's the end of their research.
right, because
Stelter said that's true. I've got a thing marked in my brain saying that Trump likes to get peed on by Russian whores.
yeah. Well, and the problem is breaking the mainstream.
Stelter says we have something in common.
Well, I'm thinking, so what if he does though? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I say too.
Yeah,
As a
but-
voter, I don't give a fuck. I don't
Well,
care
that's-
my
who or how
point
he
is
fucks
that
or
but
where
it
he fucks
meant
or
that he was being
what he
was
fucks.
being controlled by the Russians is what that meant. Is that
Yeah,
he
they
was
were-
being blackmailed
I know,
and
I know.
under their control. And I do care about that. I don't care who pees on anybody, but I do care very much on who is telling who what to do. And if the president is compromised, I want to know about. But it turns out there's absolutely nothing to
Well,
that.
even the Mueller investigation with this whole Russiagate thing basically turned up the fact that the entire Donald Trump camp was going, what the actual fuck are these people talking about?
Yeah.
And don't even bother talking to them. And they
Yeah.
called that obstruction.
Yeah.
You know,
I know.
Trump basically
That's a good
saying,
point.
don't cooperate with these assholes.
Yeah.
They're working off of a made up script.
Mhm.
And that right there is enough to, as Mueller, that nasty little piece of work, did say, well, it kind of could be construed as absurd. I wouldn't deal with anybody who ran with a story like that.
I can't figure out what Mueller is. Is he just stupid?
I think
He should not be a stupid man.
I think he's actually passed his sell-by date, and I think he's been you know how they like to use the term compromised?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Mueller's been compromised. I think this is a cabal, okay? This is a cabal that includes people who could say, that nice little retirement account that you have,
Yeah. I know where you're going.
your investment house is going to shut it down and kick you out, and you're going to have to fend for yourself because we say so.
Right.
Because this Clinton machine has more tentacles than we ever knew. We didn't know that they had completely co-opted the fucking FBI, but they had. I mean, Comey goddamn fucking lied about what he knew without so much as a hair on his head getting ruffled.
Well, do you think we should be able to vote for the head of the FBI instead of being chosen?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I don't want it to be a political position.
No.
Yeah.
And it wasn't supposed to be, but it has been ever since ever since Hoover. It's been a political position, just like the CIA is a
the
political
difference
position.
between Hoover being in the position and it was a political position was that Hoover controlled the politicians in power. He controlled presidents. He really did.
Oh yeah.
For a great many years, and then once Hoover was gone, then it became a position from which you could curry favor and feather your nest for that post career.
Yeah, and the CIA decided to take their place instead. It's this. The security state apparatus that we have between the NSA, the CIA, and the FBI, they're more corrupt motherfuckers in those three organizations than you can possibly imagine. And God knows how many of them have been compromised by foreign entities.
DIA and NSA too, by the way.
Oh yeah, let's just add them all. I mean, I'm perfectly willing to carry that over to the 5-sided building in Arlington because those shitbags are acting like they've all
at least
been made.
at least the E-ring.
Oh yeah,
I'll give you the E-ring.
absolutely. The DoD people and the brass in that building. If every last one of them were flushed into the Potomac and washed out into the Bay, nobody would fucking miss them.
Yeah.
Does anybody here listen to or check out the content put out by a guy named Mr. Reagan?
No.
No.
Yes.
I've heard a little of it. Yeah.
I've watched many of his things.
He's touching into this deep state shit and the corruption in the FBI and stuff, and it's pretty good. I think he's onto something. I think you're onto something, Prospero. I think the deep state has been revealed, and it goes all the way back to Mueller.
Oh, it goes farther back than that. I mean, Comey was dirty.
When 9/11, it's that's kind of.
Oh yeah, it's yeah. I don't want to get into too many conspiracies about that.
No. I was saying that was what started the
security state
to fall.
Right, oh yeah,
exactly.
And we could hang that around the neck. We can hang that around the neck of the Bush machine, which was. Okay, the Bush machine is corrupt. It can't hold a candle to the Clinton machine.
No.
But it was a wannabe.
The Bush machine was kind of like inept corruption.
Well, they were like Clinton nice.
Yeah, no. It was completely different in the way it was organized. Let me just step in here just for a quick second. The difference between the way that the Clinton machine operated and the Bush machine was in Clinton, the Clintons ran it, and it was a finely tuned machine, basically. It was their people, their objectives, their methods, and maybe their murders. Who knows? I know, but maybe, just maybe not.
Too soon?
Yeah, too soon. So that was the architecture of the Clinton side. The Bush side was different because you have little pods of power that decorate the Bush family like Christmas tree ornaments. It's like, we have to hang around with this guy because he has access to some really good stuff. But none of us have any respect for him. And that was what the George W. Bush administration was like. That's basic. George W. Bush was a dumbass. I'm sorry, but he's not a stupid man, but he listened to people uncritically who misguided him. Yeah. The move into Iraq, the nonsense in Afghanistan, and telling him that he was actually, this is an interesting thing, and this is not going to be a popular thing. He was handed a country in pretty good financial shape, and he was the one who put the first big multi-trillion-dollar hit on the debt. He put like $12 trillion of debt on that we didn't have. That we were basically at, effectively compared to that number, zero before that, and then Barack Obama comes along and doubles that. Trump adds another $7 trillion to that. Okay, we're getting to a point where our national debt is a significant percentage of our gross domestic product, and that is a potentially disastrous situation for our currency.
When there come time when the inflation comes more than revenue, and will there come a time where the inflation becomes so much that the revenue will be just the interest, will come so much that they'll just crash the market? Because they'll get the interest come more than the government gets a year.
Yeah, actually, we can go down that road. I can tell you what will happen fairly precisely.
Yeah.
When that happens, essentially, what you have to do is the country has to stand up and say, "Folks, we've been improvident with our currency. We've printed a little bit too much, and now it isn't worth near as much as it used to be. So, starting today, our currency will be exchanged for new currency that is worth 1/10 of the old currency's value. 10-for-1 reverse split." And that is what happens. That happens in country after country. You say, well, that could never happen in a modern Western style country.
Israel.
Bullshit. Israel did it. Yeah, exactly. Israel did it.
They're not that big.
And, this isn't just the province of places like Venezuela. This can really happen. If that happens, one of the things that's going to happen is the dollar is going to no longer be the default currency of the world. Yeah. And what will take its place will be a basket of currencies, of which the dollar will be one, but it will be in there with the euro, and it will be in there with the external yuan. And actually, we'll have a fight with China over that because China will say, no, we want the internal yuan based on our stated value, and the value is whatever they state it is.
Yeah.
That's why they have two versions of the yuan. Is because there's one they can control, the internal yuan, and there's one that they use for international trade, which is the external yuan, which of course floats because people will buy and sell it since they keep it in foreign banks.
We'll end up in a general currency market pool.
Yeah, exactly. And then what will happen is we will feel the erosion of our influence and our ability to lead the world economically. And frankly, we have the best economy. We have the economy that is best positioned to lead the world in absolutely every way you can think of. We are the perfect storm.
But we hate ourselves.
The right resources, the right wealth, the right motivation, the right objectives, and it's the right time. But the Democrats have said, "Oh,
we suck." Yeah, the Democrats have said we suck and that we shouldn't be. This is Barack Obama's wet dream.
Yeah, this is right. You're absolutely right.
This is the globalists' design. To reduce the United States to just another trading partner in the world and not the global hegemon, because we're such a malevolent hegemon.
I can understand it if they believed our values to be fine, but they don't, so it makes it impossible.
Well, yeah,
I want a shirt that says "I'm a malevolent hegemon."
Yeah,
I want one of those really badly.
Well, but the thing
Wine
is,
press, see to it.
Yeah, it's this notion that absolutely everything the United States, because we have done some things wrong, that makes everything we have ever done wrong.
Yeah,
it's a you've committed the sin that has erased all good.
Yeah,
and a lot of that is driven by jealousy. There is a lot of fortuosity on the North American continent. A lot. It's a resource-rich continent. It's relatively easy to defend. We have peaceful neighbors to the north and south. And then well, I just can't wait for the Canadian invasion. Sorry, but I'm here to take your stuff,
Yeah.
We'll have the last laugh.
No, this time we won't invade. We'll just wait for you to try to come in and get lost.
Yeah, well, we'll bring armadillos with us. If it's the summer, we're okay. Otherwise, they'll freeze. But it's this incredible original sin guilt thing. It's as if we've taken everything shitty about the United States that Europe has ever said about us out of petty fucking jealousy, mind you.
I've done the UN.
And fuck the UN. and taking it to heart because that makes us a really good neighbor. You're right. We really didn't have anything to do with winning World War II. That was all Russia, and England was fine, and it was just great, and everything was spiffy. And that, I know we can be blowhards, and there have been things that are historically distorted in our global hegemony. But if you consider the fact that most of the world does not have to pay to defend itself, because we're the global hegemon.
I won't say America's gusto is a good thing, So that's what I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, we defend a large portion of this globe from malevolent actors, and we have participating partners that help us do this. The British have been outstanding in that. The Europeans, shakes hand.
There's no such thing as a European. That's the problem.
Well, yeah,
they call themselves Europeans, and they say they're united in this European Union, hence the term united, but they're not. because you have a bunch of countries that are trying to hang together in a glorified common market. And they're finding out that you have producers of wealth and you have consumers of wealth.
Yeah, and it's breaking down to the old Hanseatic states that are producing and the rest of them aren't.
Imagine my shock.
Yeah, it's
the Hanseatic League. That's funny.
But I mean, it's Germany, the nations that you can depend on.
Yeah.
To actually get something done are Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
The French can,
to an extent, the French.
The French
just
can,
so darn big. They have
if
just
they
so much
feel
industry.
like it.
The French are like the kid with ADD that if they can focus on something they like, they'll get it done.
Yeah.
You
that's it.
sort of have to understand.
They feel like it.
You have to understand the French vibe. And the French vibe is toujours la France, toujours la France, toujours la France. There is only one country in the world. There's only one country that matters. And there's only one people who matter. And those are the French. And within France, they do the same thing. There's only one place that matters, and that's Paris. Every other place is shit.
And you know who's to blame for that mindset?
It starts with Charles de Gaulle.
It begins with Charles and ends in de Gaulle. Yeah. But post-war de Gaulle really framed a lot of the French Parisian political attitude, which is we are, you may be. You know, they're the snobbery. The Provence produces, Paris consumes.
Yeah.
It's
if it's good enough to be consumed.
Yeah, but it's I mean, Marseille is the busy port, not Paris. But fuck them. I've heard over and over again.
Marseille is a hell of a port, by the way.
From people who have spent any time in France, that the problem with France is Parisians.
Yes, you've heard that from me. I know.
And it's the Sorbonne crowd.
No shit, Sherlock, right?
It's a little bit like if you want to pinpoint a lot of the trouble in Britain, it's London.
It's the Oxford crowd.
It's the Oxbridge crowd.
Oxbridge, yeah.
Yeah, it's the Oxbridge crowd. It's our shit doesn't stink and we know better than you. Yeah. It's the people that have hashtag FBPE.
Well, it's
in
best
their
to
Twitter
stay in
bios.
one's lane now, isn't it? It's best to stay in one's lane now, isn't it?
Well, yeah. But, and they're the people who had the gall to use a term like gammon.
Sound like Ozzy Osbourne.
He does. That's pretty awesome.
But, they use a term like gammon. And Hillary Clinton has always wanted to be one of them. Mm-hmm. Hence her deplorables comment. Yeah. I mean, she gave away the game.
Americans wouldn't understand gammon.
No, but deplorable they understood.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing.
That's what she was saying.
You doughy pink Midwestern pricks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How dare you think you can rule yourselves?
Well, it's an interesting thing because here we are in this situation, and we have the regime that thinks we may be beneath representation. And so I thought to myself, what is the best way to see if we're fit to rule ourselves or if we should just be lorded over like a bunch of cattle and occasionally slaughtered for our meat? And I looked up, and do you know that on April 13th, 1895, when I was I guess I was in the 6th grade, because I knew the older kids were taking this test. And this is from the Smoky Valley Genealogical Society has the examination graduation questions of Saline County, Kansas, April 13th, 1895. And this is to graduate from the 8th grade. You have to take this exam. I'm going to just do a little monologue here and tell you about the exam. And I'm going to let you reflect quietly to yourself as to whether or not you could pass it. I figured I could read one section, just give you the questions in one section, and then we could talk about that. I thought it might be some fun. And the first section is you are given 1 hour for this, and there are 10 questions. And the section is entitled Grammar. The first question is, give 9 rules for the use of capital letters.
What?
Give 9 rules for the use of capital letters. And the rules that are the correct answer to this question, it practically has to be memorized like Bible verses. That's question 1. Question 2, name the parts of speech and define those that have no modifications. This is to get out of 8th grade. 3, define verse, stanza, and paragraph. Now, most people don't know
I could probably do.
What the difference between a verse, a stanza, and a paragraph is, but it's that's actually a pretty significant question, in my opinion. Let's see. There it is. All right. Define case. Illustrate each case. Most people can't even tell you all the cases. 6, what is punctuation? Give the rules for principal marks of punctuation. So give all the rules for a comma, or an apostrophe, or a period, or a question mark, or an exclamation point. 7 through 10, write a composition of about 150 words and show therein that you understand the practical use of the rules of grammar. How many people with sociology degrees would have no clue what to even make of this test?
Those are very abstractly written questions.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing is this isn't multiple choice.
No,
they give you the questions, choice. You write down the answers and hand the answers back. That's the way this test works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the grammar section. I don't know what that's. I think students today would be hard pressed to get more than about 3 or 4 of those questions right.
Students 50 years ago depended. Yeah, done it.
Oh no, I'm getting to the racist part. Section 2 is arithmetic. You get an hour and 15 minutes for this one. Number 1. Name and define the fundamental rules of arithmetic. And that's capitalized. Fundamental rules of arithmetic.
Wait.
Name and define the fundamental rules of arithmetic.
PEMDAS.
What it basically means is what does a plus sign mean? What does a minus sign mean? What is mathematical precedence? That kind of stuff. That's basically what is in that answer.
That sounds like an essay question.
Wait till you hear the second question. We can tell you're in Salina, Kansas here. A wagon box is 2 feet deep, 10 feet long, and 3 feet wide. How many bushels of wheat will it hold?
I don't know until I fill the thing.
The thing is, you have to know what the volume of a bushal of wheat is.
Yeah,
okay?
How many
what
slots
volume is?
I guess
and then you just yeah, exactly, and then you just do the arithmetic. The next one is great. If a load of wheat weighs 3,942 pounds, what is it worth at 50 cents per bushel, deducting 1,050 pounds for tare, T-A-R-E? How many 8th graders know what tare is?
How many people now know what tare is?
Yeah,
it's
that scale thingy. All right. So anyway, that's this is to get out of the 8th grade, to graduate from the 8th grade. All right. Here's another one. District number 33 has a valuation of $35,000. What is the necessary levy to carry on a school 7 months at $50 per month and have $104 for incidentals? 8th grade. Here's another one.
To be fair, there's no algebra here. It's all basic arithmetic.
Yes, this is
you have to memorize some conversion factors. If you were used to the way they phrase those questions, I think those are actually entirely reasonable.
Yeah.
I actually agree with you completely, Harry. And the other thing is that you the reason this seems hard to us is I was taught what a bushel is. I was taught that like a rod is 16 and a half feet. That I was taught all those weird measures and weird conversions, stuff like that. But they don't really teach that anymore, I don't think, do they?
No.
No.
So that some of it's like find the cost of 6,720 pounds of coal at $6 per ton. Pretty easy peasy. Find the interest of $512.60 for 8 months and 18 days at 7%.
Compounded daily, compounded monthly,
that's a trick question because we don't know how the compounding works.
No, that's uncompounded. They did not put compounding in that.
So simple interest. Okay.
Yeah, simple interest. What is the cost of 40 boards, 12 inches wide and 16 feet long at $20 per M?
At $20 per meter.
No. $20 per M.
Oh, M. Okay.
No, M. The letter M.
What is that?
Exactly. Here's the next question. Find the bank discount on $300 for 90 days, no grace at 10%. It's actually kind of a future value. It's actually a net present value computation. Here's the next one. What is the cost of a square farm at $15 per acre, the distance around which is 640 rods? I didn't know the rods was in there.
It's very biblical.
I was going to say furlongs, and I went, no, say rods.
Are we building a pyramid?
Yeah, so let's see. What is the cost of a square farm at $15 per acre? Okay, so what you got to know is, how big is an acre on a side? How many acres are there, and and how many acres produced by a perimeter of 640 rods? Pretty easy to do, but still, for an 8th grader, I'm impressed. And then the 10th question. This is interesting. I love this 10th question. This is in the arithmetic section. Write a bank check and a promissory note and a receipt. How wonderfully practical that is.
Yep.
That's the evidence of real teaching.
Well, is this area in farm country? Maybe that could be why all the questions are kind of geared.
Well, yeah, it is.
Well, yeah, this is a wheat growing country.
Yeah.
This is life education.
Yeah.
This because 8th grade was the last compulsory year of school required.
Exactly.
And this was making sure that what you sent out into the world were people who would work and would vote with functional brains.
Yeah.
They read and write and arithmetic, all taught to the tune of a hickory stick. That is why we won World War II on a nation in the 1940s with the average citizen having an 8th grade education.
Right, because that 8th grade education was kick-ass.
Yeah, it was the equivalent, if not better than a high school education.
It was literally
without
better.
without the algebra and it had geometry because they were talking about volumes and
perimeters also,
and perimeters and that kind of thing. But you did not have the algebra, which was considered more advanced mathematics. If somebody were gifted in math,
mm-hmm.
and a teacher saw that, even in a farming community like this, they might start talking to the parents about a preparatory high school experience for this kid if they thought they could have one. Mm-hmm. But they just didn't send anybody into preparatory high schools because it was a waste of time. And in farming communities, at 14, you were going to work.
Mm-hmm. So you get to work, so you get your life started,
Well, you were going to work because you needed to fucking eat.
Yeah.
And the necessities of life were such. I mean, preparatory high schools existed. They tended to be boarding schools in another city for a kid
Right.
from Kansas. And you see, if you go back in history and you look at the art of some of these people that grew up in rural areas, you'll see that they attended a preparatory high school somewhere. And then they were recommended for a university.
Yep.
And that people would sponsor the bright out of communities.
Okay. That's how my dad went to the Naval Academy, by the way. Was he was sponsored into he couldn't get a congressional appointment, but his grades were so high, and he was a phenom in Southern Alabama, for what that's worth, a math genius from Southern Alabama. But he was a known quantity, and they sponsored him into Marion Institute, which was a prep school of exactly what you described, a military prep school. And the number 1 and number 2 graduates of the prep school got to go to West Point, and one got to go to the Naval Academy. That was and Dad was second in the class, and the valedictorian, he was the salutatorian. The valedictorian picked West Point, which is what Dad wanted to do, and so he said he got his second choice. He got to go to the Naval Academy,
which meant a guaranteed college education.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
And not just that.
A career.
You get paid.
You get paid,
and he got to send money home. That was a big fucking deal.
And a limited service requirement, if you consider the value for the dollar. But there was. Yeah. It was an entirely different world. This notion of colleges and universities on every corner. The 20th century, post World War II, is the explosion of colleges and universities in this country, and actually, it's started even later than that. The community colleges began blowing up in the 70s, I'd say, 70s and 80s.
But Norva CC was a big deal when I was in high school back in the 1800s.
Yeah. But it
was
in an intense urban environment like Nova, which oddly enough, even though it was pastoral when you were in high school by comparison to what it's like now.
Oh my God. You know that.
That was a very heavily populated area, so community colleges sprung up there as opportunities for those who did not have the do-re-mi or the ability to get scholarship funds for the major colleges and universities. Barron's book was not the size of the New York phone book. When when you and I were looking at the Barron's Guide to Colleges and Universities. Yeah. Now it's the size of the LA or the New York phone book.
And and we've let them puff themselves into a much less meaningful institution now.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of places calling themselves universities that wouldn't have even been considered for colleges in 1920.
They have nothing to offer. But anyway, I've been saving the next part for my friend Prospero, because we are to the U.S. history portion, for which you get 45 minutes, and you're going to get a kick out of these, Prospero. Number one question is: give the epochs into which U.S. history is divided.
Wow.
Yeah. When was the last time? This is something from Prospero's and my youth.
How long?
They stopped. It's just a way of dividing up the. There was the
era
period and the Civil War period and all that stuff.
Antebellum, postbellum,
MySpace, Twitter.
Yeah. those are actually chunks of the epochs.
AOL.
But anyway, epochs tend to be a little bit longer. Yeah. The second question is: give an account of the discovery of America by Columbus.
He didn't discover it; he found it by accident.
He did discover the island of Hispaniola.
He was looking for hash.
He discovered Haiti
and Cuba, I think. He bounced through there. I'd be like, but don't you actually mean the Spanish in Florida? You know, it's just, or how about the Vikings in Vinland? Although much less was known about, very little actually was known about them in that time
much
period.
more exciting than Columbus.
Oh yeah, especially since they were probably chased away by indigenous people and cows.
So you had a couple of questions here in U.S. history, and you're probably thinking, "I've got this. They're not going to have any hard questions here." And then you get to question 3. Relate the causes and results of the Revolutionary War. All of them.
Yeah.
Oh shit, dude.
That's actually not that bad a question.
They should use this for your citizenship test. If people have issues with the amount of people who are getting full citizenship in the States, this is a good way to weed people out.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with the citizenship test. I have a problem with the people that are already citizens that can't pass the citizenship test. The immigrants who take the citizenship test actually learn their goddamn history.
Oh, yeah.
It's the citizens farting along that we're listening to now going, hey, communism's great, you know, are the ones that don't know shit about their history. That actually is not a bad question, Harry, but for a 14-year-old?
Well, remember, they had fewer distractions then.
Yes,
right?
and less
so
history
this
to teach.
This is the thing that they sat and they paid attention, or they got their knuckles rapped with a ruler. And they probably spent a good week or two discussing this particular thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not like they weren't well prepared for this.
Well, they only had, as far as political history of the United States, 100 years worth to study.
Yeah, they had a lot less history to memorize.
Yeah. They didn't have two world wars. Yeah.
And my suspicion is that what was being taught was probably a lot more similar from class to class. There probably wasn't a whole lot of deviation.
No,
I'm thinking that there was a way to do it.
Yeah, very much so.
Oh, but no, they would have known the 7 Years' War and the cost of that, and
yeah.
So
the damn Canadians burning down the White House. Canadians.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the cause for the That's not the cause for the revolution, though.
It is.
You get done with that. You get done with that question, right? Mm-hmm. You think, tough question.
Yeah.
Maybe the next one will be easy.
Bullshit.
Question 4: show the territorial growth of the United States.
Oh yeah, awesome! I can remember doing these maps when I was younger. You know, when you started with the 13 colonies, and you had to do the westward expanse of like Virginia and North Carolina all the way to the Mississippi.
Draw the fucking Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah, the Louisiana Purchase, the Northwest Territories,
the Gadsden Territory,
the Gadsden Purchase, the Spanish-American War Gains,
the Oregon Territory,
the 54-40 fight.
Right, 54-40, right, yeah.
You know, and the
why that line's there,
and the acquisitions, and I don't know whether I was ever taught the order in which all the states entered the Union exactly. But you always knew that Colorado was the centennial state because it entered the Union in 1876. Yeah. So in 1895, it wasn't even 20 years a state.
That's right.
So in Canada,
of course, this is Kansas, not Colorado.
In Canada, because we have so few, we were taught the order.
Yeah.
Because we've got Ontario, Nova Scotia, Quebec, and New Brunswick, I think it was. That were the 4 confederated provinces in 1867.
Wow.
And then, I can't remember the other ones after. Like, I can't remember the exact order after them, but I know I was taught the order. I remember that I was taught the order. I just can't remember the order now.
I want to get to the next couple of questions though, because these are really, really good.
Okay.
Tell what you can of the history of Kansas.
Awesome.
Write everything you know about the history of Kansas in that book in front of you.
Does it have to be in full sentences, or
Do
are
we
bullet
get-
points
Do
sufficient?
they get to talk about what happened to the Cheyenne?
You know,
Is
They
John
actually
Brown a
would've-
good guy or a bad guy?
They actually
it's
would
a fair
have.
question.
Quantrell would have been the better question there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the Kansas-Nebraska Act, what it was as a territory prior to that. Kansas was not that old of a state at this time. Their grandparents, were they alive, would have remembered.
Clearly. And in fact, you're going to love the next question. Because tell what you can of the history of Kansas. Kind of a very general question. Just go for it. The next question: describe 3 of the most prominent battles of the rebellion. You say, which rebellion? They're talking about the Civil War.
Yeah,
they're talking about Civil War is 1895. Okay, so this is 30 years after they put down the guns.
Yeah.
It's not really that long, and there's still tons and tons of veterans walking around, veterans of the Civil War with really profound opinions, particularly in Kansas.
A Patamox.
Patamox, the courthouse there. Yeah, big doings. Who are the following? Who are the following? Morse, Whitney, Fulton, Bell, Lincoln, Penn, and Howe.
Oh, I love that.
Don't know, inventor.
Morse invented the telegraph. Whitney invented
Morse.
the cotton gin. Fulton was he didn't invent the steamship, but he really kind of perfected it. Yeah. Bell started the telephone thing and lots of other stuff. Lincoln was a president or something.
Yeah.
William Penn started Pennsylvania, and Gordie Howe was a goalie.
Yeah.
He was actually a forward. He was a forward.
I think that's Elias Howe, wasn't it?
So you don't think they were predicting Gordie Howe in the 20th century?
No. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think
it's figured it was Gordie Howe.
I think you're talking about the dude that invented the sewing machine.
Okay. Very good. I just assumed it was Mr. Singer. But anyway, then the final question in U.S. history is name events connected with the following dates: 1607, 1620, 1800, 1849, and 1865. Yes, end of the Civil War. Everybody knows that. 1607, Jamestown. 1620,
Massachusetts Bay Colony.
1800 is kind of a pivotal year, but
I'm
too many things happened then. Probably some important Kansas stuff happened in 1800, and then 1849, I assume, is another Kansas state, and 1865 is in the Civil War.
Kansas-Nebraska Act. I need to look up when that was.
Okay. And then you think you're done. No, these are 8th graders. They've got another hour of test. Not only one more hour, they have hours more testing. Orthography, time, 1 hour. Number 1, what is meant by the following? Alphabet, phonetic, orthography, etymology, and syllabication. What are the elementary sounds? Classify them. What are the following and give examples of each? Trigraph, subvocals, diphthong, cognate letter, linguals. Give 4 substitutes for caret U. C-A-R-E-T, like diamond carrot, and then the letter U. Give 2 words for spelling words with a final E. Name 2 exceptions under each rule. So, where E makes the vowels in front of it long, give a couple examples of that. Right. That's the kind of thing they want. Give 2 uses of silent letters in spelling. Illustrate each.
Firefighter.
Yeah. Yeah. Anti-disestablishmentarianism. Define the following prefixes and use in connection with a word: by, dis, miss, pre, semi, post, non, inter, mono, and super. 8th grade. Could you do it? I'm not sure I could have done it. I'm not sure I could have done that. Mark diacritically and divide into syllables the following and name the sign that indicates the sound. Card, ball, mercy, sir, odd, sell, rise, blood, fair, last.
I'm sorry, diacritically?
Diacritical marks are like the accent aigu in French. Okay. That's a diacritical mark, or circumflex, or an umlaut. Those are all diacritical marks. Little marks usually over the top of letters. Although they can be on the bottom, like the S dealy bop in French and Spanish.
But English doesn't have those.
Tildes, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
accent grave.
They look like tildes. Yes.
Yeah.
They're similar looking to tildes, but
So
they're
it's
actually
tildes.
they're just little marks. Then you get to geography. Another hour. What is climate? Upon what does climate depend? Chart all future. What do they want them to do? Well, upon what does climate depend? I assume that
depends on using no plastic straws.
Right.
And the turtles.
What this means is that they were taught in a certain way. They were taught a lot of the answers to these questions. That's one thing you have to understand.
Well, a bunch of them passed the test. That's how I know if you were there. It's not like a bunch of them didn't pass this test.
It
just seems odd to us.
Take it.
Yeah.
It seems odd to us. Although I do think that the standard of what you're responsible for knowing has changed. That's what has changed.
Yeah.
That is the dramatic thing. And what we expect 8th graders to be responsible for knowing today is nothing like this. I mean, the second question is interesting. How do you account for the extremes of climate in Kansas? Because Kansas sucks. That's always been my answer.
No, it's Oklahoma sucks.
Of what use are rivers? Or of what use is the ocean? Describe the mountains of North America. Describe each one in detail. Name and describe the following: Monrovia, Odessa, Denver, Manitoba, Hecla, Yukon, St. Helena, Juan Fernandez, Aspinwall, and Orinoco. Name and describe all of those. Holy crap, dude.
Describe them.
Yeah, exactly.
Describe them.
Yeah, I'd be putting vague, smelly, stinky. Anyway, name and locate the principal trade centers of the U.S. Name and locate the principal trade centers of the U.S. Eighth grade. They had to be taught this. Name all the republics of Europe and give the capital of each.
The republics of Europe, huh?
Yes. And why is the Atlantic coast colder than the Pacific in the same latitude? Explain that. Describe the process by which the water of the ocean returns to the sources of rivers. God, science was simple then. Describe the movements of the earth. Give inclination of the earth. Where are the saliva, gastric juice, and bile secreted? What is the use of each in digestion? This is in the I guess in the science section here. How does nutrition reach the circulation? What is the function of the liver, of the kidneys? What is the how would you stop the flow of blood from an artery in case of laceration? Give some general directions that you think would be beneficial to preserve the human body in a state of health. And this is fascinating stuff. They have all this surrounding stuff around the test. Like they have the rules for the teachers. This is actually just rules for teachers. This was given out by the school. Just what their general duties are. Teachers each day will fill lamps and clean the chimneys. That's one of the things that a teacher had to do back then. You had to fill the lamps and clean the chimneys.
No wonder they formed a union.
Exactly. Can you imagine Weingarten doing that.
No.
Each teacher will bring a bucket of water and a scuttle of coal for the day's session. Seriously. Make your pens carefully. You may whittle nibs to the individual taste of the pupils. They took feathers and whittled nibs out of the quills. Men teachers may take one evening each week for courting purposes, or 2 evenings a week if they go to church regularly.
Giggity.
Oh, goody! They have a lot of dating time.
When I read that, I just about fell over. After 10 hours in school, the teachers may spend the remaining time reading the Bible or other good works. After 10 hours in school, the teachers may spend the remaining part of their day reading the Bible or other good works.
They don't get to eat or like sleep, or they must just sit there and
They eat those apples. The students
Listen to the
bring
next
them.
one. Listen to the next one. Women teachers who marry or engage in unseemly conduct will be dismissed.
Can only be a spinster marm.
Yep, they had to be marms.
But not
Each
in
teacher
Florida.
should lay aside from each pay a goodly sum of his earnings for his benefit during his declining years, so that he will not become a burden on society. I just
That's great, man.
Encouraging prudence.
Any teacher who smokes, uses liquor in any form, frequents pool halls or public halls, or gets shaved in a barber shop will give good reason to suspect his worth, intention, integrity, and honesty.
What the fuck?
What's wrong with the barber shop?
Exactly, man.
Dens of iniquity.
That's right. That's right. And pin-ups on the wall.
Hanging out with
And
married men.
The final rule is the teacher who performs his labor faithfully and without fault for 5 years will be given an increase of 25 cents per week in his pay, provided the Board of Education approves.
That should help out on date night. But I want to address. I want to address one of the things you were talking about the women. If they were married, they were going to be dismissed.
Yes.
Now there is a logic. There is a logic behind this, and it's not. I don't think. I'm not sure what other people are thinking. I'm not good at mind reading, but the logic is that if she's married, she has an obligation to help her husband prepare.
Yeah.
Like for instance, in Europe during the Edwardian period, women who were married would get to start their work 2 hours later than unmarried women, and the reason being that they had things they needed to do for their husbands. In the case of something like a school, it's kind of hard to do that because the students are just going to show up and you kind of have to be there. Yeah. So it was a conflict of interest for a female teacher to be married, and that's why they wouldn't allow for that.
No, it's patriarchy. We all know it. Yeah.
I think that's a good point, Harry.
And on that note, I really gotta duck out.
Oh, I didn't even notice the time, Blind Press. I usually call a pause to the thing. I'm sorry, I just got fascinated by this. And I hope you enjoyed it.
It was amusing. Wednesdays with Skep tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right.
We're doing this.
So come by at 12 p.m. Eastern to the Blind Press YouTube channel. And I will also be streaming on Twitch tomorrow, so come and check that out too. And I'm going to be DMing you guys about some ideas for a track as well, because I haven't formulated any yet.
It's not the day before.
No, it's not.
Why rush it?
It's great.
It's so great to have you here. Thank you for honoring us with your presence.
Thank you for
hanging
having
with us.
me.
Always. You're always welcome on this show.
All right. Have a great night, guys.
All right, sweetie.
Have fun.
Night.
Good night.
Night, hon.
I'm gonna use this as a time to eject myself.
Oh, okay. I hope I didn't bore you too much with this.
No, God, no. No, it was highly entertaining and very cool.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
we're not going terribly longer. terribly much longer, but
yeah, I've got to cook.
Appreciate
Uzi
you.
wanted me to cook her something specific, and I'm going to make it. So,
all right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for stopping by, and you're always welcome here too. You know that. And,
yes.
you got a home here always.
Yeah. Sunday I'll be talking to Ryan Walters. So
Ooh,
hop
very
in
nice.
and hang out. And Aunt Kathy the week after that. That should be interesting.
Hey guys, I've been going by and making a point of hitting up Irate's streams here in the last couple of weeks. He really does a great interview. He does a fine interview, and his guests are interesting. This is really a worthwhile show. If you enjoy the interview format type thing, he's got some interesting people, and he has some interesting questions. Just you're a natural at this, Irate, and I enjoy your show. So,
well, I appreciate it.
I'll be there again.
All righty, we'll see y'all
later.
later. I'll
Good
be
Good
around.
night.
Good night.
my
Night,
friend.
hon.
Salute and hugs.
Bye.
Night.
And then we were 5. So anyway, are we better off now than we were then when we used to teach a much more rigid curriculum? Or are we better now that we're letting them develop their opinions on critical race theory and the 1619 project?
All right, they're two. Don't conflate the two.
I'm just having a bit of fun.
Yeah. Because
I'm mixing paint.
yeah, because are we better in the methodology of teaching has changed tremendously from rote to exploratory, I'd say.
The way they call it exploratory. It's not
really. Rote had its value because there's certain things that it's almost crucial to master. And mastery can be achieved by rote.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other things that can be achieved and mastered through a more expositional way. There's an awful lot that we ask to be taught, and an awful lot of persiflage. And one of the difficulties, like in teaching history, let's pick that as an example, is that we have another 130 years now beyond what a teacher was faced with in 1895. And an awful lot has happened in those 130 years, roughly. A lot. I know it's 126, but I'm not entirely sure that we do much service in trying to cover as much as we do. But it would be very difficult to winnow out and winnow down. I think what are the major causes and roots of the revolution? What were the major causes and roots of the rebellion? What were the major causes and roots of World War I and our entry into it? Because if you're teaching American history, we should be more interested in why the United States entered World War I than what was necessarily going on in Europe. That would be the purview of European history.
Yeah.
I never took a history class that completed.
What?
It never did. They stuttered to a stop around World War I because there was
They
too
ran
much
out of time
cover.
before they ran out of syllabus, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
I didn't even get near World War II in U.S. history. Barely got to World War I. I mean, scraping it at the end of the year.
You can't really run out of history because they keep making more.
They just ran out of time to teach what was there,
Gotcha.
And it's a long and complex history. And if we have a very different system of government in the United States than a lot of the world, and how we came about achieving that government is a very complex thing. It's almost impossible to separate political history from facts, numbers history. And facts, numbers, history is a terrible way to teach history anyway. You know, it's just like on this date, Edward III had his toenails cut. Nobody gives a shit. You know.
Also, nobody can learn that way. Very few people can learn.
Yeah, that kind of detail is. I'd rather people have a rough idea when shit happened.
Right.
Than the actual
and
date.
Know the flow of history.
Date of it. Yeah, the flow of it, the meaning. In other words, the causes and effects, to me, are more important. That question about the causes and effects of the American Revolution, we could spend 2 or 3 streams going over that kind of information and why it was important and how it fit into the timeline. With the rebellion, Jesus Christ, that could be an entire month of your Tuesday nights given over to discussing only that.
Yeah.
And probably even then we'd want another week.
I was just going to say
it would be difficult. It would take probably about 6 weeks to cover that adequately, and and 2 to 3 for the revolution, because it's a bit more cut and dried there. You can reduce it all. You can reduce it all.
You can reduce it all,
to the emotional and the financial and the territorial and the, and
the international aspects
of the philosophical, particularly the philosophical. But once you get into the philosophical, all somebody has to do is ask you a question, why, and there's another stream.
Yeah.
Can't we just watch a Ken Burns movie?
Yeah. No. I mean, he does a good job for condensation, I think.
Everybody just started chanting movie.
Yeah,
movie night.
But I remember I had a history teacher in high school, my 10th grade, world history, and she had the same attitude you do, Prospero. She told us that she didn't care if we knew the exact date that the 100 Years' War started. She said it's enough that you knew that it was the middle of the 14th century when it started. She said beyond that, it doesn't matter what year. It matters, and her point was that sometimes years do matter because history is unfolding so quickly. Years are a very convenient way to understand the cause and effect of events during that time. But it's just a handy way to organize it, basically. And then that so she had a kind of a dichotomous view of the importance of dates, where most dates were not important, but occasionally they do become important when you're tracing historical events that fall close one on another.
Well, I'm far more interested in somebody knowing why the Louisiana Purchase matters,
or why the 100 Years' War,
or why the 100 Years' War matters, or why, because you mentioned the dates, and 1849 was the California Gold Rush, by the way.
Oh yeah, 49ers.
Yeah, well, it was easy to overlook, and in 1800 the White House opened to its first president. That would still be important because it was a scant 70 years before that the White House was burned.
Yeah.
So but there are things that matter, and if you're going to publish a paper or write a paper, you damn well better get your dates right, because I want to see that the research has been done.
Yeah.
Which means that you need to have the actual facts and figures underpinning the thematic. But the thematic, to me, is still more important. And history isn't just the history of events. There's the social history, the literature, the music, the art of the time, the zeitgeist, for want of a better term. What was the feeling in the antebellum United States in 1855? In Georgia, it was entirely different than it was in New York. How did people live their lives?
Oh yeah.
Rural versus what people now would say what passed for urban.
Yeah. I mean, it was history's tricky. I think it's one of the hardest subjects to teach effectively.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass to try to get people to care.
Yeah, it is, and you really have to make it interesting. And I've seen all these guys; they always win. The winners of the Educators of the Year. The guy dresses up every Friday like a famous historical figure and affects these accents and spends hours rehearsing the parts and getting them professionally written. They do anything they can to cater to the children to make them pay attention.
A little funny thing about that, my grade 9 history teacher used to goose step around the classroom pretending he's a gay Nazi.
A gay Nazi.
Whatever you do, don't mention the war.
Yeah.
It was hilarious, but I don't think it helped me learn any sort of history, but it was really funny.
Yeah, what do you remember about the class? Exactly.
Well, a sense of humor.
He was stepping around the classroom and his pug. He brought you into class.
A sense of grade 9 history. A sense of humor matters, though. It can't be so deathly dull, and you've got to be able to, understand that if you're looking at a costumed portrait of a figure from the 16th century, that kids are going to think it's dorky as shit looking, right? What's with that ruffle around the neck? The grossest bib ever. Was that to catch the chin drool because they were all inbred? You've got to let people have a yuck or two.
So there is, I think one of the best ways to teach history is to make sure you incorporate all the gruesome bits. If you want to go really far history, like the ancient history kind of thing, because not just your modern last 100 years or so. There is a series, a British author, Terry Deary, he wrote, or I'm not even sure if he's still alive, but he has a series of books for kids called Horrible Histories. Eventually they made it into a TV show for kids, which wasn't as great, like an educational show, which is not fantastic. But his books, they're small little chapter books. I have a ton from when I was little. They each focus on a very specific thing, like the Aztecs, the ancient Egyptians, the Vikings, Queen Elizabeth I, the Tudors, whatever. There's a huge library of them. And the main focus is to get into the gross, nitty-gritty detail about that time period, about what happened, about the wars, and in the same time incorporating a timeline of that. It's super fun for kids to read because kids are evil at that age, and you crave blood, so you learn a lot of stuff. So by the time you get into high school and you kind of learn a bit of morality, you're like, oh yes, I know about that. Interesting. Imagine how people lived back then. So I think it's fun to allow young kids to learn that way. You get more effective, and then by the time they're in higher education, like where how to write and everything, you better have better critical thinking, I guess.
Yeah.
For history.
A little bit more mature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The danger in that is that they don't take the upper level history and they still think the Aztecs are cool.
The Aztecs are many things. Cool doesn't really
like certain California educational text developers thought, it'd be really important to teach how the Aztec were better than everybody else. Oh yeah, that child sacrifice shit and killing off everybody else. Yeah, that was awesome. Tell me more.
I see they're around. Oh, they're not? Oh, they've been killed to extinction. Oh, okay.
Yeah, those Olmec, those Toltec, those Mayans, they weren't real fond of the Aztec. Their people kept disappearing. Every time they lost a battle, they all died. It was kind of strange. History can be kind of fun from a karmic sense too, because it didn't really pay off for the Aztecs when they met the guys with better weapons.
Mm-hmm.
No, that didn't work out.
Who spoke with rolling R's and funny Z's.
And a bit of a lisp.
The Aztecs.
When I remember learning this like in the 4th grade, in being over in Europe, going to my little British Belgian school, and talking with my 4th grade teacher, who was institutionalized for the rest of her life just after completing the year in which she taught me. I should not.
Oh boy.
We put her away.
What did
But I
you
remember-
do?
It was the frog in the drawer, wasn't it? It was the last straw.
I made the LSD too strong. No, anyway.
Dragons! She just kept yelling about dragons.
No, I remember her going on and on about Pizarro and being the first white man to make it to Chile and so forth, and what a great life he had, how he marched down, conquered all these nations and so forth. And I'm reading about this stuff about how many of the people he killed on his way traipsing through the continents, and my little 4th grade mind is going, General Pizarro's an asshole.
Yeah.
He's
remember
killing
those
a lot
Inca?
of people.
Those Inca. Yeah, you meet a lot of them these days.
Yeah, Inca today, gone tomorrow. He
Gone Pizarro.
absolutely wasted a lot of people. And so I brought this up to her, and she said, "No, you'll never be as great as Pizarro." And I'm like thinking, well, I'll never murder that many people. I almost said that to her. I remember I was thinking, I talked to my dad about it later on. He said, "It's a good thing you kept your mouth shut."
Yeah.
And I remember Dad saying, Miss Elzout has a lot of problems. And that was the only indication I ever heard she ever had any problem. We found out later that my mother referred to her as that crazy bat, and she evidently was erratic and a drunk and all these other things outside of school. So she would not have made it in the Salina school system in 1895, but she was good enough for Brussels, Belgium in 1961.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, who wanted to live in Brussels?
Don't know what to tell you. Yeah, whoever wants to live in Brussels? Brussels has 220 days of rain a year. Fuck Brussels.
Yeah, it wouldn't help. Wouldn't help somebody who was self-medicating with alcohol much, would it?
Oh my God, seasonal affective depression.
Yeah,
that's a real thing. You really get tired. I remember
vitamin D deficiency doesn't help.
The next year. Oh, that's funny. We should take these little red 1-a-day vitamins that were distributed to people gone overseas by they called it the Military Aid and Assistance Group, the MAG. That's the only military activity that existed in Belgium while I lived there, and we used to get free vitamin pills from them because they figured there was something deficient about living on the economy in Belgium. And some officer thought that was a good idea. So we got these little red 1-a-day vitamin pills that we used to take. That's funny. I haven't thought about that.
Keep your iron up. If they had vitamin D in them, they may have provided. Yeah, they would provide defense against that seasonal affective disorder.
The thing was, I remember that by the 3rd year, I was the oldest of the 3 kids. My sisters were oblivious. It's raining again. I know. I'm like, I want to go ride my bike.
Yeah.
This is fucking sucking.
I have a gate to jump at the Waterloo Memorial.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember, I asked Dad, I said, when are we going back to the States? He said, oh, you're going to really like it when we go back. We're going to a place that's one of the sunniest places in the United States. And I'm like, yeah, you burned me once. You told me how great Belgium was. I'm like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid at the end, I just don't want to go there and find out it sucks. It stinks is the way that Sundance put it. But anyway, and he wasn't lying. Of course, we came back to the United States, Colorado after Belgium. Are you shitting me?
Paradise.
Oh my God. It was
not as green, but really a lot more interesting.
A lot more interesting and a lot of sunshine. Just a whole bunch of sunshine. I was just, every day is a day you can go out and do stuff. It was amazing. I loved it so much better than Belgium. I just thought I was in heaven. Colorado is still my state, and I think part of it is just the fact that it didn't rain very much there. But anyway, be that as it may, how I do go on. So we seem to be winding down a little bit.
There was something I want to talk about real quick, though.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to share my screen. There's something on Twitter that I saw on Twitter that it kind of aggravated me for some reason.
I'm sorry, I can't understand you.
Well, there's something on Twitter I saw the other night, and it kind of aggravated me. And I just want to talk about that real quick. I'm sharing my screen.
What was it?
Well, I'm sharing the screen. It's just a little political comic that I find kind of stupid. Well, because it used to, the left wing and the right wing, I already find that stupid. But the us versus them, when people say that they're fighting for us, it's usually like about the greater good or they need to know what's better. And for me, I can only speak for me. So, I don't know why this cartoon aggravated me for some reason.
Yeah, it's collectivism versus individualism.
Yeah.
And it's trying to make
unintentionally very funny.
Yeah, it is, because it's trying to make me look wrong, where me is the fundamental principle of liberty.
And us is the fundamental principle of collectivism.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's, so it's the Stasi to the left and John Locke to the right.
Yeah.
It's
if you think about it, us versus me, okay, who gets the benefit, okay, of living in the country? And the perception by the left wing is that us working together, we can all make a better place for all of us. Now, we all get the same stuff, but we all get plenty of it, and there's plenty to go around, and it's a compassionate society, and blah, 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 blah. And all you have to do is surrender your freedom. The problem is that when you surrender your freedom and accept the yoke of communism or socialism is communism, or whatever fascist oligarchical style state is being set up, or monarch, as soon as you do that, you quickly find out that there's not enough stuff for everybody to have a lot of stuff equally. And so what happens is the people who run the society want to stay comfortable. So they craft laws and regulations to keep themselves comfortable and keep you in a state of privation. So then when you go to them and say, this isn't working out, could I have my liberty back? They shoot you.
Yeah,
they always fucking shoot you.
And there's an amazing overlap between me and us, because if an entire group of me's, as you see there, agree that, to rational self-interest, and I'm not going to get all Ayn Rand here, but still, that is a factor, and maximum freedom benefits us all, there will be plenty of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the us is voluntary. The us isn't mandatory.
Where did that come from, Jason?
Del Future tweeted it out.
Did he?
Yeah. Because Scribe liked it and I saw it. So
how did I miss that? Oh, God, my Twitter timeline is as bad as my Facebook timeline. I don't see shit until it's 5 days old.
Yeah.
I have to
like
refresh.
a piece of this one.
Please.
I'm going to break it down even further. I think what you're seeing is what Thomas Sowell described as a conflict of visions. And it goes back before Sowell, of course, because it has to do with the way these people think about the nature of man. Now, to the people on the left, to the progressives, they think that individual humans are beasts. And it's only through the formation of the us that the nature of man that can be basically tamped down, and that the one true utopia can actually be built by all of the humans being constrained. And people on the right, or traditionally more conservative people, don't view things like that way at all. They think that the nature of man is very, very, very different than progressives tend to. They see individual liberty as being a good thing, and that the government and the us being the yoke that's trying to be placed upon them. And if you look at different psychological traits that people have, you can actually test people on both sides. There's some very clear differences between the way people on the left and the people on the right tend to look at stuff. Jonathan Haidt has done some great stuff, and there's some stuff of his on YouTube where he explains his position on this, his take.
Yes. I love him.
So I would you don't have to go all the way back to Machiavellian Locke. You can just listen to a little bit of Haidt and a little bit of Soul, and it'll all make a lot more sense.
And some of what Jordan Peterson has done with the trait work, and looking at trait openness, and some of those. They're not innate, but they almost are.
Well, some of them have a genetic basis
component
to them in terms of risk-taking behavior. So, for instance, you see the kind of person who's on the right who would start a business is the person who would say, I'm going to forgo this income, I'm going to save this up, I'm going to leverage myself, and I'm going to pour myself into building a business. Right. You don't see people on the left do that kind of stuff nearly as much. The other weird thing about a lot of people on the right is the disgust reflex is a lot more developed.
Yes, it is.
People on the right tend to be a lot more closed off on a lot of social stuff because you just look at stuff and go, that's gross, that's wrong, that's morally wrong, that's gross. And this is where you end up with the traditional far right, like the moral majority and that sort of crowd. But I think it doesn't have to get that far out of hand. Conservatives do change. Their Overton window on social stuff moves a lot more slowly. And this is sort of the criticism that you actually want some people to be a little more open-minded and some people to be a little more respectful of tradition. You want the two sides to basically engage and make each other better, because either of them as absolutes are probably not ideal.
No. And yes, in fact, just to really kind of just point I was going to make about this, and that is that in terms of, if you view that cartoon in terms of rights, the people on the right think that they own their rights. Yeah. People on the left think the government owns their rights. So their rights are owned by us, the government, okay, and that government permits us to do certain things. The people on the right say, no, I'm me. My rights come from my inalienable, they are inalienable, and they come from me just because I am a human being. Just because I am a human being, I have these rights. They are natural, they exist, and a person has them, and that's the way that is organized. Whereas the left, all the rights are tied up in government, and government controls the range of things that you can do, the range of things that you're permitted to do, and controls your rights, can take them away on a whim.
Yeah.
And it's that was another aspect that kind of hit me that way when as Harry started to talk about it. I realized that there was probably a rights paradigm you could look at that cartoon through as well. But
and the social thing, just real quick, the social thing that Harry mentioned about certain behavioral things in society that the right has high revulsion, disgust mechanism to. If they can be persuaded that it does not impact them, in that it will not rot the culture, like gay marriage, how much time have gay people been around? How many more did they notice? How much more damaging was in your face Castro Street parade than just saying, well, yeah, I understand. What really is the role of marriage in the state? There are logical ways that you can shift people on the right on social matters, particularly if you hit them on the liberty issue. If I am free to marry person B, and person B is free to marry person A. Well, why can't persons B and B get married and persons A and A get married? You know, you can make a legal or logical persuasion argument where it's like, that's fine. Nobody's
kind of going for an equal protection stretch, aren't you?
a bit, or contract law to be specific. Because
the contract part is not the problem.
Yeah,
you can make contracts with
it's the social
people exchange service or goods for value.
Yeah, but it's also what's the role of the state in marriage, and I think people on the right have shifted on that because the only thing the state seems to actually genuinely have any legitimate control over is property and issue. And beyond that, there's free association, which is important to those people who believe in inalienable rights. It's, what is marriage other than free association to some extent?
Yeah. I want to get back to something Skep said before we get too far away from it as well. You need to finish this thought? Sorry.
No, I had finished.
I still don't know the difference between your commas and your periods when you're talking.
No, I was done.
So the Skep was talking about there's not enough that if we divide it all up equally, that we'll be okay. Now, it's not a zero-sum game. When you talk about the difference between capitalism and socialism, for instance, it's a huge assumption that the size of the pie that we're going to be divvying up is not going to change. And I would contend that the real damage is beyond the divvying up, is the fact that the pie will actually be a lot smaller.
It'll contract.
The planned economy is going to be far less efficient. Because the market does certain things incredibly well, like determine, what do we need? Pricing and markets work beautifully at determining where we should put the energy to create what we should do. They also create wealth, but people are also invested in their role in the economy. If you take away the profit motive or you take away private property, people do not sweep the sidewalks in front of houses that they don't own.
No.
Right.
They just wait for somebody else to show up and deal with the garbage that the raccoons knocked over. It's not my job. This is owned by the states. Yeah.
Go to Cambodia if you want to see it. My God.
Communist economies contract. There's no way around them contracting.
The only clean communist country in the world is North Korea. And that's supposed to be because they don't have anything.
If you took our current economy and you said, okay, tomorrow we're going to be communist, and the size of the pie didn't actually change, and we didn't just let everybody in the world in, that might be tolerable over the short term, but it's really that it just becomes massively inefficient and you just don't get the best out of people.
One generation, the contraction's going to cause massive shortages because there'll be no cross purposes. Everyone will have their defined role. This is the problem with highly centrally planned things as opposed to the ideal Republican model of more separately planned things. Rome functioned because there were pods within the greater circle of Rome that all operated. And when things contracted to make it all about Rome, and Rome became all about Rome.
Are you talking about Rome the Republic or Rome the Empire?
Rome the Republic. When they changed to the Empire and it became Rome Central,
absolutely
all about Rome, bit by bit, the Republic, what was left of the Republic, and now the Empire contracted because there was no way to manage it.
Well, when you see someone like Nero or Kamala Harris being the very best person you can select to lead your country,
yeah, to say nothing.
I wonder if we're headed the same way Rome is. I'm sorry, go ahead.
To say nothing of the Caligulas and the entire shit show around Claudius and all of that. It's just we are headed in that direction because the Federalists now are super state Federalists. They're not people with, there is a certain amount of power that needs to be vested in the federal government. The rest lies dispersed within the republic. We have been contracting and contracting and contracting that power into Washington, D.C. And as a result, we see the elite's disdain for all the people out in the republic.
Yeah.
Except in those places that matter financially to them. And that is a recipe for when the Hun shows up at the door, the people in Northern California hand the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
The Sacramento's that way.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like a guide? Here, have an elephant. It becomes a recipe for rebellion, whether it is on the outskirts or whether it is in the heart of the beast. And that rebellion is either going to go toward collapse or dictatorship, one way or the other, And
that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've gotten to the point, ladies and gentlemen, where you have spent 2 hours of your lives listening to us yammer on about all things Salina and the state of the world and our opinions on everything. But I want to thank my panel for joining me this evening, and thanks to chat for being a part of this. I'm on my last legs. I'm about to fall over, so we're just going to end this right here. I have a quick quote. It has to do with the fall of Rome. It's from Ariel Durant, and who said, "A great civilization is not conquered from without until it has destroyed itself from within." Those are words to really, really pay attention to. And, hold those in your heart when you're looking around at what's going on in the United States today. I'm very concerned for the way this country is going. But tomorrow's another day, or today is another day already. And I want to thank everybody for being a part of this. And the zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Have
Good
fun.
night.